All right, ready to dive into some power dynamics today? We're going to be looking at Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, a book that's sparked a lot of conversation.
It's a fascinating look at strategy and psychology,
Yeah.
pulling from all sorts of historical figures to illustrate these laws. Emperors, con artists, you name it.
Greene definitely doesn't shy away from the more uh, cunning aspects of power, but we're here to analyze and understand, not necessarily endorse everything he says.
Think of it as a toolkit. Some tools might be a bit ethically gray, but knowing how they work can help you recognize those dynamics.
Exactly. So let's jump right in with Law 1. Never outshine the master. Sounds counterintuitive, right? Shouldn't we always strive to be the best?
Well, Green argues that making your superiors feel insecure can backfire. And he tells this story about Nicolas Fouquet, wealthy finance minister in the court of King Louis XIV.
He threw this extravagant party trying to impress the king, even commissioned a play by Moliere. Talk about going all out. But it seems like this display of loyalty wasn't received as intended.
Yeah, King Louis, known for being a bit, egotistical, felt threatened by it. Every compliment paid to Fouquet, every gasp of awe at the lavish decorations just fueled the king's insecurity.
And that led to some pretty serious consequences for Fouquet.
You bet imprisoned for the rest of his life. A stark reminder that sometimes downplaying your brilliance, especially around an insecure superior, can be the smarter move.
So what does this mean for us now? Are we supposed to constantly dim our lights around our bosses?
Not exactly. It's not about hiding your talents. It's more about being aware of the power dynamics. Like, let's say you just landed a huge client at work. It's fine to celebrate your success, but maybe avoid bragging about it right in front of your boss if they're prone to feeling threatened.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Reading the room and understanding the personalities involved.
Right. And this applies beyond just the workplace. Think about friendships or family dynamics. Have you ever noticed how some people get defensive or dismissive when someone else is in the spotlight?
Oh, absolutely. It's like they feel the need to one-up you or downplay your accomplishments.
Exactly. Recognizing this dynamic can help you navigate those situations more gracefully and avoid conflict.
So it's all about being strategic with how you present yourself and your accomplishments.
Right. Sometimes a little bit of humility goes a long way.
Okay, that's Law 1. Let's move on to Law 2. Use absence to increase respect and honor. This one seems particularly relevant in our always-on world.
Definitely goes against the grain, right? We're supposed to be constantly networking, promoting ourselves, always being available.
Right. Hustle harder, be everywhere. That's the message.
But Green presents a different perspective. He tells the story of diocese wise and just figure in ancient media. People traveled from far and wide to seek his counsel because of his fair judgments.
So like a celebrity judge, the ancient world's Judge Judy.
Haha, something like that. But at the height of his popularity, Diocese decided to withdraw from public life.
He just walked away?
Yep, went off the grid, left everyone wondering what happened, and people started to miss him. Realized how much they had relied on his wisdom.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Exactly. And the Medes eventually begged him to become their king. They valued him even more when he was gone.
Wow. Talk about a power move.
Hmm.
So are we supposed to disappear from the office for a few weeks and wait for a promotion?
Of course not. It's not about literal disappearance. It's about strategic scarcity. Think about it. Have you ever noticed how taking a break from social media makes people more interested when you come back?
Oh, yeah. It's like when you post something after a long silence and everyone's like, where have you been?
Exactly. It creates anticipation, makes you seem more desirable, more in demand.
So this law is about finding a balance between being present and making yourself scarce.
Right. It's about understanding that sometimes stepping back increases your influence.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these laws can be applied in everyday life.
That's the beauty of Green's work. It's not just about historical figures and power plays. It's about understanding the dynamics that shape how we interact with each other.
All right, let's keep this going. What's next on our list?
Law 3. This is where things start to get a little more ethically ambiguous. Green calls it, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
Oh, that sounds a little sneaky. Are we talking about being a manipulative credit hog?
Not necessarily. It's about leveraging the skills of others to achieve your goals, which is something great leaders do all the time.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do we balance that with acknowledging the people who actually do the work? No one wants to feel exploited.
That's the crucial part. It's about being a strategic delegator, but giving credit where credit is due. It's about fostering collaboration and acknowledging everyone involved.
So less about taking all the glory and more about recognizing that success is often a team effort.
Exactly. You can achieve your goals while also building a team of talented people who feel valued. Think of historical figures like Bismarck or Napoleon for Prejudices, but they relied on the expertise of others.
So like being the conductor of the orchestra, recognizing each instrument plays a role.
That's a great analogy. It's about recognizing the value each individual brings.
Okay, I'm starting to feel a little more empowered already. But what about protecting yourself from those who might try to use this law for their own gain? How do you spot a power-hungry delegator who's just looking to exploit others?
That's a great question, and it leads us right into the next law, which has a rather cynical view of human motivation. It's called appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude.
Okay, that definitely has a dog-eat-dog world vibe. Is Green saying we should abandon all hope of kindness or reciprocity?
Not necessarily, but he is highlighting that appealing to someone's self-interest is often more effective than relying on their goodwill.
So like that old saying, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
Exactly. It's about understanding what motivates people and framing your requests in a way that aligns with their desires and goals.
Can you give us an example of how this works?
Absolutely. Green tells this story about the art dealer Joseph Duveen. He wanted to win over Andrew Mellon, this super wealthy banker and art collector. Mellon was known for being shrewd and not easily swayed.
So how did Duveen get past his defenses? Did he offer him some irresistible discount? A free Van Gogh?
Nothing so straightforward. Duveen knew that Mellon was an avid reader with a passion for art history. So he sent Mellon a gift, a collection of rare art books.
Now that's a gift, but I'm guessing there was a strategic motive.
Of course, Duveen understood that this gift would appeal to Mellon's intellectual curiosity. It was a way of aligning their interests. And guess what? It worked. Mellon became one of Duveen's most loyal clients.
Wow. So it's not about bribing people, it's about understanding what makes them tick and finding those shared interests.
Exactly. It's about creating win-win situations where both parties benefit.
All right. I'm starting to see the power of strategic thinking here. But some of these laws are making me question the whole nice guys finish last thing.
Well, Green isn't exactly advocating for being a pushover. He's presenting a realistic view of how power dynamics work.
Okay, fair enough. So what's the next law on our list? I'm ready to delve deeper into this world.
Let's explore Law 5, which is a bit darker. It's called Discover Each Man's Thumbscrew.
Okay, that sounds ominous. Are we about to enter the realm of psychological warfare?
Well, this law is definitely about exploiting weaknesses. Green argues that everyone has vulnerabilities, insecurities, or desires that can be used to your advantage. He uses the story of Lola Montez, an Irish dancer and actress who became influential on the court of King Ludwig I of Bavaria.
Lola Montez. That name sounds familiar. Wasn't she involved in some sort of scandal?
Oh, absolutely. She was a master at playing on Ludwig's weaknesses. She understood his vanity, his desire for attention, and his romantic nature, and she used all of that to gain incredible influence over him, even persuaded him to make her a countess.
So she basically wrapped him around her little finger.
She was incredibly skilled at manipulating his emotions, using flattery, challenge, and playing on his insecurities to get what she wanted.
I have to admit there's a part of me that admires her ambition and cunning. But this law definitely raises some ethical questions. Where's the line between strategy and manipulation?
That's the key question, isn't it? Understanding someone's motivations and appealing to their self-interest is one thing, but deliberately exploiting their weaknesses for personal gain is another matter entirely?
It's a slippery slope.
Exactly. And that's what makes these laws so fascinating. They offer a glimpse into the machinery of power, but it's crucial to remember that knowledge is a double-edged sword.
So it's all about intention, right?
Yeah.
Are you using your knowledge to empower yourself and others, or are you using it to manipulate and control?
You got it. It's a question each individual has to wrestle with.
Well, I'm definitely feeling a lot more aware of these dynamics already. What's next?
Let's lighten things up a bit and move on to Law 6. Create compelling spectacles. This is where things get a little less dark arts and a little more stagecraft.
Oh, the art of putting on a good show. I can already see how this is relevant today, especially with social media and personal branding.
Yeah. Exactly. Green argues that visual imagery and grand gestures can be powerful tools for shaping perceptions. He uses examples like Julius Caesar's carefully crafted public image and Cleopatra's dramatic entrance into Rome.
Those are some iconic images.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely see how a well-executed spectacle can leave a lasting impression.
Think about it. We're constantly bombarded with visual stimuli, advertising, political campaigns, Instagram. Our minds respond to images and symbols
And it's not just about being flashy. It's about crafting an image that conveys a message.
Right, Caesar understood the power of symbolism. He'd wear purple robes and a laurel wreath associating himself with royalty and victory. Cleopatra made her entrance into Rome on a barge adorned with gold and silver, positioning herself as a goddess.
So it's about creating an aura, a larger-than-life persona.
And in today's world, think about branding, stagecraft, and political campaigns and social media visuals. We're all constantly creating and consuming spectacles.
It makes you wonder, where's the line between spectacle and manipulation? Are we all just pawns in someone's carefully orchestrated show?
That's a great question. And it's one we all need to be asking ourselves as consumers of information. It's crucial to think critically and be aware of how visuals are used to influence us.
So it's not about rejecting all spectacles, but about being aware of their power and not letting ourselves be swept away.
Exactly. Now let's stir things up a bit and explore a law that's all about emotion. It's Law 7. Stir up waters to catch fish.
Okay, this sounds like we're getting back into psychological maneuvering. What's Green's take?
This law is about provoking emotional responses in others, particularly anger, while remaining calm and objective yourself.
That sounds incredibly difficult. How do you stay calm when someone's trying to push your buttons?
It takes practice and self-awareness. Green uses the example of Harry Houdini, the escape artist. Houdini was once challenged by a rival escape artist who claimed to know all his secrets.
Oh, I love a good rivalry story. Yeah. What happened next? Did they have some sort of escape off?
Pretty much Houdini, instead of getting defensive, decided to play a game. He intentionally revealed a supposed weakness, allowed his rival to steal the combination to a pair of handcuffs.
So Houdini was setting a trap.
Exactly. He used his rival's anger and eagerness to his advantage. He stayed calm and in control and outmaneuvered his opponent. Of course he ended up winning.
That's brilliant. Using someone's emotions against them. It's almost like a Jedi mind trick.
Haha, the force is strong with this one. But in all seriousness, this law highlights the importance of emotional intelligence. Being able to control your own emotions while understanding the triggers of others gives you an advantage.
So it's not about being emotionless. It's about being strategic with your emotions and not letting them cloud your judgment.
Well said. Now let's delve into a law that's about creating a win-win for yourself no matter what. It's Law 8. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal.
Ooh, that sounds like some next-level power play. How does this one work?
This law is about framing choices in a way that benefits you regardless of the option chosen. Green uses the example of Ivan the Terrible, the first Tsar of Russia.
Ivan the Terrible? That name doesn't exactly sound like someone who's big on compromise.
You're not wrong. Ivan was known for his ruthlessness and his desire for absolute power, but he was also a master strategist. He understood that sometimes the best way to get what you want is to give people the illusion of choice.
So he was playing a kind of psychological game.
Exactly. Early in his reign, Ivan faced opposition from the boyars, the traditional Russian nobility. They wanted to limit his power.
So how did Ivan deal with this resistance? Did he just crush them with his army?
He could have, but he chose a more cunning approach. He pretended to be on the verge of abdicating, claiming he was tired of power.
Wait, he faked an abdication. That's bold.
It was. But Ivan knew what he was doing. He understood that the boyars, despite their opposition, were terrified of the chaos that would follow his departure. Russia was facing threats from outside, and they needed a strong leader.
So Ivan was basically giving them a choice between two bad options: stay with him and accept his power, or face anarchy and invasion.
Precisely. And the boyars chose the lesser of two evils. They begged Ivan to stay, and he agreed, but only on the condition that they grant him unlimited authority.
Wow, that's turning a weakness into a strength. By appearing to surrender, Ivan consolidated his power.
It's a classic example of how controlling the options can be just as effective as brute force. And this law has applications everywhere, from negotiations to everyday interactions.
So it's about being aware of the power dynamics and framing choices in a way that gives you the upper hand.
It's about being a master chess player, always thinking ahead and anticipating the consequences of each decision.
This is all making me realize how much strategy and psychology go into even the most straightforward interactions.
And that's the beauty of exploring these laws. They make us more aware of the forces at play in human relationships, and hopefully that awareness can help us navigate these complex dynamics with more skill and wisdom.
Speaking of skill and wisdom, let's move on to Law 9. This one seems relevant in today's world of consumerism and instant gratification.
Law 9. Despise the free lunch.
Ooh. I'm sensing a cautionary tale coming on. Are we talking about avoiding those too-good-to-be-true offers?
You're on the right track. Green argues that there are always hidden obligations and pitfalls with things that appear free.
Like that old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly. Green uses the story of Yellow Kid Weil, a notorious con artist, to illustrate this. Weil was a master at preying on people's desire for easy money. He would create these elaborate schemes that seemed to offer incredible rewards with little to no risk.
What are schemes we were talking about, like those Nigerian prince emails?
Uh-huh. Not quite that obvious, but
Oh,
similar. Sometimes he would tell people about fixed horse races, offering guaranteed wins. Other times he would claim to have insider information about stocks.
so he was playing on people's greed.
Exactly. And he was incredibly successful. He understood that people are blinded by a free lunch. They suspend their critical thinking skills.
Classic case of, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But this law isn't just about avoiding financial scams, is it?
Right. It's about being aware of the hidden costs and potential downsides of any seemingly free offer, whether it's a free trial that signs you up for a subscription or a free gift that comes with strings attached. Read the fine print.
This is great advice. But what about situations where there's a genuine offer of help or support? How do we tell the difference between a genuine gesture and a manipulative ploy?
That's a great question, and it leads us perfectly into the next law, which focuses on the power of genuine connection and persuasion.
Intrigued, bring on Law 10.
Law 10. Work on the hearts and minds of others. This one shifts the focus from manipulation to genuine connection.
That sounds like a much better way to influence people.
It is. This law is about persuasion over coercion. Instead of forcing people to do what you want, you inspire them.
I'm noticing a lot of these laws are about understanding psychology and using that strategically.
Exactly. Green uses the story of T.E. Lawrence, the Lawrence of Arabia, to illustrate this law. Lawrence was amazing at uniting those different Arab tribes during World War I.
I remember him from history. Almost like a mythical figure, this British officer who gained the trust of those independent tribes.
He was a master of understanding what made them tick. Instead of imposing his will, he appealed to their shared values, their desire for independence, their national pride, their religious beliefs.
So he's more of a diplomat.
In a way, yes. He understood that true power comes from winning hearts and minds, not just controlling actions.
Makes me think about leaders today, the ones who inspire genuine loyalty, not just obedience.
Right. Think about leaders who can articulate a vision that people connect with emotionally. They don't just give orders, they make people want to be part of something bigger.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. But how do you actually do this? How do you work on the hearts and minds of others?
It's about building real relationships, understanding people's motivations, and communicating in a way that speaks to their values. Leading by example, showing integrity and commitment to that shared vision.
So no cheap tricks or manipulation tactics.
Right, building trust and inspiring others to follow because they believe in you and what you represent.
This is definitely my favorite law so far. It feels much more ethical and sustainable.
I agree. It's about creating a win-win.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look at Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. This one sounds a little manipulative at first glance.
It can be interpreted that way. But Green's point is that creating dependency isn't always about scheming or control.
So it's not about making people feel weak.
Not at all. It's about making yourself indispensable, so valuable that people rely on you.
Okay, I'm starting to see the positive side. Can you give us an example?
Sure. Think about a skilled surgeon. Years of training and experience. People depend on them for their health, even their lives. Or a brilliant engineer who designs solutions to complex problems. Their expertise is super valuable.
So it's about developing skills that make you an asset.
Exactly. And this applies to any field business. The arts activism becomes so good that people can't imagine being without you.
But doesn't that make people afraid to lose you? Like they're walking on eggshells?
That's where it can get tricky. The line between healthy dependency and control can be blurry.
So how do you avoid crossing that line? How do you become indispensable without being toxic?
It's about being generous with your knowledge and expertise, empowering others to develop their own skills, fostering mutual respect and collaboration so everyone feels valued.
So not holding power over people, but sharing your power to help everyone succeed.
That's the key, creating a win-win.
All right, that makes a lot more sense. Let's move on to Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This one sounds a bit deceptive, like we're using kindness as a weapon.
It definitely has that Machiavellian edge. But Green's point is that an act of kindness or honesty can be disarming, especially if it's unexpected.
So catching people off guard, lowering their defenses.
Exactly. If someone is always suspicious, it's hard to build trust. But if you surprise them with genuine generosity or honesty, it can change everything.
Okay, I see how that could work. Can you give an example?
Imagine a negotiation. The other party is tough and demanding. Instead of meeting their aggression with more aggression, concede a small point that's not crucial to your objective.
Giving them a small victory to gain their trust.
Exactly. Or let's say you're trying to connect with a skeptical client. Instead of sales pitches, surprise them with a thoughtful gift that shows you care about their needs.
So using kindness and honesty strategically to make persuasion easier.
Right. It's not about being manipulative, it's about understanding human connection.
Okay, I could see how this could be ethical, but it requires a delicate touch.
Absolutely. It's all about intention. If you're using kindness and honesty to connect and build trust, it's powerful.
This is giving me a lot to think about. Let's move on to Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude. Didn't we cover this already?
We did touch on it, but Law 13 is specifically about how we ask for help.
So not just about appealing to self-interest in general, but how we frame our requests.
Exactly. Green says people are much more likely to help if they see how it benefits them, not just out of compassion.
Okay, that makes sense. We're all wired to look out for ourselves to some extent.
Right. So instead of saying, help me, I'm struggling, you highlight the benefits of helping.
Can you give us an example?
Let's say you need help from a colleague. Instead of saying, can you help me finish this report? I'm overwhelmed. You could say, I'd love your input. Your expertise would be so valuable, and it would help us both present a strong case to the client.
So you're showing them how their help will benefit them.
Exactly. Or if you're asking a friend for a favor, instead of just relying on friendship, you could say, I'm moving and I'd love your help. I'll provide pizza and beer, and it would be great to catch up.
Turning a chore into a social occasion.
Exactly. Finding those win-win scenarios.
This is making me realize how often we only focus on our own needs when asking for help.
It's common, but by being mindful of how we ask, we can get the help we need and strengthen relationships.
Okay, this is a law I'm going to try to use more. Let's move on to Law 14. Pose as a friend, work as a spy. This one sounds a bit shady. Are we talking about being double agents?
It does sound cloak and dagger, but Green's point is that it's crucial to gather information and understand the motives of those around you, especially in competitive environments.
So being observant and strategic, not sneaky.
Exactly. Think of it as being a social detective. Pay attention to people's words, actions, body language. Get a sense of their intentions.
Okay, that could be helpful when there are hidden agendas at play.
Right. Let's say you're in a new job trying to figure out the office politics. By observing colleagues and the power dynamics, you can gain valuable insights.
So being aware of your surroundings and the social landscape.
Exactly. It's not about being paranoid. It's about being informed and strategic, using your observations to make better decisions.
This makes me think about those people who always seem to know what's going on and how to get things done.
They're the ones who are good at reading social cues
Yeah.
and using that knowledge to their advantage. Not necessarily manipulative, just highly attuned.
This is definitely a law I need to work on. I can be oblivious to those subtle cues. Okay, what's next?
Law 15. Crush your enemy. Totally. Now we're getting intense. Is Green suggesting all-out war? It does sound ruthless. But before you start crushing enemies, let's dig deeper. Green's point is that if you're going to take someone on, you need to be decisive and thorough.
So not about being vindictive.
Not at all. It's about recognizing that half measures can backfire, especially with a determined adversary.
So better to neutralize a threat completely than risk it coming back.
Exactly. Imagine a wildfire. If you only put out part of it, the embers can reignite and create a bigger problem. Same with conflicts. If you don't address the root cause, it can come back to haunt you.
Okay, let's see the logic. But how does this apply to everyday life? We're not fighting for survival.
True. But we all face challenges. A difficult client, a competitive colleague, a personal conflict that's dragging us down. The key is to assess the situation and decide if it needs a decisive solution or a more subtle approach.
So being assertive when necessary, but not letting ego drive our actions.
Right. Choosing our battles wisely and remembering that sometimes the best move is to walk away.
Okay, that makes more sense. I was starting to get worried we were going full Game of Thrones. Let's move on to Law 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor. Wait a minute, haven't we covered this one?
You're right. Looks like Green thought this was so important it needed repeating. It's all about strategic scarcity, making yourself less available to increase your value.
So a reminder that stepping back can be powerful.
Exactly. We live in a world that rewards constant visibility. But sometimes taking a break, creating mystery, being more selective with your time can make you more desirable and influential.
This makes me rethink my whole approach to social media. Maybe I need to try the strategic unpost.
It's worth considering. It's all about balance. You don't want to disappear completely, but a little absence can go a long way.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like a master strategist already.
But what's next?
Let's look at Law 17. Cultivate an air of unpredictability. This one sounds a bit mischievous.
It does. Are we talking about being intentionally erratic?
Not erratic, but unpredictable.
So what's the advantage of being unpredictable? Wouldn't that make people distrust you? It can, but it can also make you intriguing and influential. Think about it. If someone is completely predictable, they become boring and easy to manipulate. But if you're unpredictable, people are constantly guessing.
So it keeps them off balance.
Exactly. It creates mystery and intrigue. People are drawn to those who keep them guessing.
Okay, I'm seeing the appeal. Can you give an example?
Let's say you're a manager trying to motivate your team. If you're always predictable, always praising the same people, always using the same strategies, it can create complacency.
People get comfortable and don't push themselves.
Exactly. But if you're unpredictable, surprise people with praise or challenge them with new tasks, it creates a much more dynamic environment.
So keeping people on their toes.
Right. And this applies to personal relationships too. Think about the most captivating people you know, the ones who are always surprising you.
They're the ones who keep life interesting.
Exactly. They're not afraid to break the mold to challenge expectations.
Okay, this makes me realize how much I value unpredictability in others. It adds a spark to life.
It does. And it's a reminder that while consistency is important, a little unpredictability can be alluring.
All right, let's keep this going. What's next?
Law 18. This one is all about building a fortress around yourself and your reputation.
Okay, that sounds a little defensive.
Yeah.
Are we talking about isolating ourselves and building walls?
Not exactly. It's more about being selective with who you let into your inner circle and how you present yourself to the world.
So protecting your reputation and energy.
Right. Green argues that in a world full of deceivers, it's crucial to be discerning about who you trust. He compares it to building a fortress, strong walls, and a watchful guard.
Okay, I see the analogy. But doesn't this create isolation and distrust?
It can, if taken too far. But a fortress isn't a prison. It's about having a secure base.
So it's about setting boundaries and surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Exactly. Choosing your allies wisely and being mindful of how you project yourself. Think about a king or a queen. They wouldn't just let anyone into their court.
No, they'd have advisors, guards, protocols.
Exactly. Have that same level of discernment in your own life. Recognize that not everyone deserves your trust, and project strength and confidence to deter those who might take advantage.
Okay, I see the wisdom in this. But how do you actually build this fortress? Where do you start?
It starts with self-awareness, knowing your strengths and weaknesses, your values, your boundaries, knowing what you stand for.
So building a strong sense of self.
Exactly. And then being selective with relationships. Who are the people who genuinely support you, challenge you, make you feel safe? Those are the people you want close.
And what about the others? How do you deal with them?
That's where the walls come in. Setting boundaries physically and emotionally. Saying no, walking away from toxic relationships, protecting yourself.
So not being rude, but being assertive.
Exactly. And the final element is your reputation. How do you want to be perceived? What values do you want to project? What kind of legacy do you want to leave?
So being intentional with how you present yourself in your work.
Right. Crafting an image that's authentic but also strategic. Think about it. If you want to be seen as a leader, you need to act like a leader. If you want to be respected for your expertise, you need to demonstrate it.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all of this creates a strong presence.
It's about being strategic and authentic, protecting yourself while also attracting the right people.
This is giving me a lot to think about. I think I need to work on my fortress building skills. Let's move on to Law 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. This seems like common sense.
It does, but you'd be surprised how often people misjudge others.
Yeah.
Green's point is that it's crucial to be perceptive and strategic.
So reading the room and avoiding those who might be dangerous.
Exactly. Not everyone is worth engaging with, especially if they're vindictive or manipulative. Think about it. If you step on a rattlesnake's tail, you're going to get bitten.
Yeah.
Same with people. Provoke the wrong person, and you're inviting trouble.
Okay, that's vivid. But how do you know who to avoid? Any warning signs?
Definitely. People who are always gossiping, who are quick to anger, who have a history of betrayal, steer clear.
So being observant and trusting your gut.
Exactly. And you don't have to be friends with everyone. Be selective and focus on positive relationships.
Okay, that's good to hear. I was starting to feel like I needed a social shield. Let's move on to Law 20. Do not commit to anyone. This sounds cynical.
It does. But before you swear off all commitments, let's hear Green out. His point is that in a world of shifting alliances and unpredictable events, you need to stay independent and flexible.
It's not about avoiding responsibility.
No, it's about being strategic with your alliances and not getting trapped in situations that limit your options.
So preserving your freedom to adapt.
Exactly. Think about it this way. If you're totally committed to one cause, one person, one ideology, you might miss other perspectives. You become inflexible.
Okay, I see the wisdom there. But how do you balance this need for independence with the desire for connection?
That's the key. It's not about rejecting all commitment. It's about being discerning, choosing alliances carefully based on shared values, and staying autonomous even in committed relationships.
So finding that balance between being involved but not losing yourself?
Exactly. Connection and autonomy essential for navigating power dynamics.
This is making me rethink my approach to commitments. Let's move on to Law 21. Play a sucker to catch a sucker. Seem dumber than your mark. This sounds a bit deceptive. Are we talking about pretending to be less intelligent?
You could see it that way. Green's point is that sometimes it's good to downplay your intelligence.
So playing possum.
Exactly. If you seem too smart, you might intimidate people. But if you appear less threatening, they let their guard down, and you can observe and gather information.
Okay, I can see how that could be useful, but isn't it manipulative?
It can be if it's malicious. But Green is writing about strategy. He's highlighting a tactic that can be useful with arrogant or overconfident people.
So using your intelligence strategically, knowing when to show your cards and when to hold back.
Exactly. Being adaptable and choosing the best approach. Sometimes it's better to play the student, even if you're ahead.
This makes me realize the power of observation and listening.
Absolutely. The people who talk the most often reveal the least. But careful listeners can gain a lot of information.
Okay, I'm going to try to be more mindful of this dynamic. Let's move on to Law 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power. This sounds counterintuitive. How can surrendering be strong?
It seems paradoxical. Green's point is that sometimes a strategic surrender is better than fighting.
So choosing your battles and knowing when to yield to achieve a larger goal.
Exactly. If you're up against someone much stronger, a direct fight might be a disaster. But a strategic surrender buys you time to gather information and plan your next move.
Okay, that's smart in war or politics. But how does this apply to everyday life?
Think about those times you're facing a huge obstacle or a draining conflict. Sometimes the best thing is to step back, acknowledge the other person's power, and find a way to work with them.
So being flexible and finding creative solutions.
Exactly. And surrendering doesn't mean giving up your values. It's about being strategic.
This makes me realize how often we get stuck in ego battles that waste energy and stop us from achieving our goals.
It's a common trap. But by learning to surrender strategically, we can save our energy, gain insights, and become more resilient.
Okay, this is something I need to practice. I can be stubborn.
Haha. We all have things to work on. But even the best leaders understand strategic surrender.
All right, let's keep going. What's next?
Law 23. It's a big one, especially today. Concentrate your forces.
Sounds like a military strategy.
Haha. Kind of. The idea is similar. Green says, in a world full of distractions, it's crucial to focus your energy on your most important goals.
So prioritizing and not getting overwhelmed.
Exactly. If you try to do too much at once, you won't achieve much. But if you focus on a few key things, you'll get better results.
That makes sense. But how do you decide what's most important? How do you avoid getting sidetracked?
You need a clear vision of what you want in life. What are your long-term goals? What are your values? What makes you happy? Once you know your priorities, you can filter out distractions.
So being intentional with your time and energy.
Exactly. And you don't have to do everything yourself. Delegate effectively and build a team that shares your vision.
This makes me realize I need to declutter my life physically and mentally. I get bogged down in busy work and lose sight of the big picture.
It happens, but by concentrating our forces, we can reclaim our time, focus on what matters, and create a more fulfilling life.
Okay, this is what I'm going to try to use more. Let's move on to Law 24. Play the perfect courtier. This one sounds intriguing. Are we talking about social etiquette in high society?
It does sound a bit Downton Abbey, but Green's point is that in any social setting, there is an art to making a good impression.
So being charming, diplomatic, and socially savvy.
Exactly. The perfect courtier can read the room, understand the unspoken rules, and adapt. They're good at flattery, diplomacy, and persuasion.
Okay, those skills are definitely useful.
Yeah.
But is there a risk of seeming insincere?
There's always that risk. The key is to be authentic, genuinely interested in others, listening well, and finding real connections.
So not about putting on a fake persona.
Right. Be your best self, charming, engaging, diplomatic.
This makes me think about people who are naturally charismatic. They seem to navigate social situations so easily.
It's a skill you can learn. Pay attention to the cues, practice your social skills, and connect with people on a genuine level.
Okay, this is a law I'm going to try to use more. I think I need to brush up on my social etiquette.
We can all use a little polish. But remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being your best self.
All right, let's keep exploring. What's next?
Law 25. Recreate yourself. This one sounds existential. Are we talking about starting over with a clean slate?
It does sound dramatic.
Yeah.
Green's point is that we can shape our own identities.
Right.
We're not just products of our past. So taking control of our stories and how we're perceived.
Exactly. Green says we should see ourselves as works in progress, constantly evolving. Shed limiting beliefs, embrace new roles, and become the best versions of ourselves.
Okay, I like that idea. But is there a danger of becoming too focused on image and losing our authenticity?
There's always that risk. Be intentional. It's not about pretending. It's about aligning how you present yourself with your inner values, crafting an image that's both authentic and aspirational.
So personal branding with a purpose.
Exactly. Think about it. If you want to be seen as a leader, you need to develop those qualities: confidence, charisma, vision. If you want to be recognized for creativity, showcase your talents.
This makes me think about people who effortlessly reinvent themselves throughout their lives, always evolving, always embracing new things.
They understand that life is about self-discovery, and we create our own destinies. They experiment, they fail, they learn, and they constantly strive for growth.
Okay, I'm embracing this one. I'm excited about the possibility.
It's empowering. Remember, recreating yourself is an ongoing process.
All right, let's keep going. What's next?
Law 26. Keep your hands clean. This sounds like a morality lesson. Are we talking about avoiding unethical things?
It does sound a bit preachy. Green's point is that it's important to maintain a good reputation and avoid messy situations. So being strategic and avoiding actions that could damage our image.
Exactly. If you get caught up in unethical stuff, it can ruin your reputation and limit your options. But integrity creates trust, which is incredibly valuable.
Okay, I can see how that's important. It's about being someone people trust and want to work with.
Exactly. If you're known for being shady, no one will want to deal with you, even if you have a good offer.
Like, lie once and no one will believe you, even when you're telling the truth.
Exactly. Trust is fragile and hard to rebuild.
This makes me think about surrounding myself with people who have integrity.
That's important. The company you keep affects your reputation. If you hang out with shady people, others will be wary of you.
Guilt by association.
Right. Be careful who you associate with and make sure your actions reflect your values.
I'll definitely be more mindful of that. What's next?
Law 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. Sounds intense.
Maybe a bit too intense for us. But what's Green talking about here?
He's talking about the power of belief. People want to be part of something bigger than themselves.
So tapping into their desire for meaning and connection.
Exactly. Think about successful leaders and movements. They tap into that need for belief. They offer a vision that people connect with emotionally.
Like those leaders who inspire fanatical devotion.
Right. They create a sense of community, a shared identity. It's not always manipulation. It's about a basic human need.
So how do you do that ethically? How do you create that kind of following without being coercive?
It's about being authentic and passionate, truly believing in your message, creating a community where people feel valued, and offering a vision that meets their needs.
This could be used for good or bad. It depends on the leader's intentions.
Exactly. Are you empowering people or exploiting them? Are you building a community based on values or just a cult of personality?
This is one to be careful with. Okay, moving on, Law 28. Enter action with boldness. This seems more straightforward, just taking risks and being assertive.
It's part of it. Hesitation can look like weakness. Boldness shows confidence.
So making a strong impression and taking charge.
Exactly. When someone walks into a room confidently, you notice them. They project authority.
I see how that's helpful when you're trying to win people over.
Right. And it's not just about how you look, it's about how you deal with things. Are you hesitant or decisive?
So taking action and not letting fear stop you.
Exactly. But not being reckless. It's about calculated risks and trusting your gut.
I realize I hold myself back sometimes because of fear. I need to be bolder.
We all do. The more you practice, the better you get at it.
I'm feeling inspired. What's next?
Law 29. Plan all the way to the end. Seems like good advice. It is. It's about having a vision of your goal and a plan to get there, considering all the obstacles and opportunities.
So more than a to-do list.
Yeah.
It's a strategic roadmap.
Exactly. You wouldn't go on a trip without knowing where you're going.
Right. You'd plan your route.
Same with any goal. Have a vision and a plan.
I realize I don't always think things through. I get excited about an idea, but don't always plan for the challenges.
Happens to us all. But planning ahead helps avoid mistakes and increases your chance of success.
Okay, I need to be more strategic. Let's keep going. What's next?
Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless. This sounds strange. Shouldn't we show off our hard work?
Like we should downplay our efforts.
Kind of Green's saying that grace is more appealing than struggle. Think about a skilled athlete. They make it look easy, but it takes years of training.
So present a polished image, even if it's hard behind the scenes.
Exactly. People are impressed by those who make it look easy, who are confident and graceful.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to project competence.
Right. It's not about being fake. It's about showing your best side and making it look easy.
It reminds me of those people who just seem to have it all together.
They make it look effortless. They know that confidence is attractive, and they project that.
I need to work on this. I tend to show my struggles, which probably doesn't look very confident.
We all have things to learn. It's about showing your strengths in the best light.
Okay, that's helpful. What's next?
Law 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards. You deal. Haven't we heard this one before?
Yeah, I think so.
It's another one Green thought was important. It's about framing choices to your advantage.
So being strategic and thinking ahead.
Right. Understanding the power dynamics and steering things in your favor.
I'm realizing that a lot of the choices we're given are already framed to benefit someone else.
All the time. Think about salespeople or politicians. They present choices in a way that influences us.
So we need to recognize that and reframe choices to empower ourselves.
Exactly. Be a smart consumer and a strategic decision maker.
I'll pay more attention to that from now on. What's next?
Law 32. Play to people's fantasies. This sounds interesting.
A little bit. Like we're going to become magicians.
Not quite. Green is talking about imagination and the human desire for escape. People are drawn to those who offer them something better, something more exciting.
So appealing to their dreams.
Exactly. Think about the most successful brands and entertainers. They create fantasies that people want to believe in.
Like those larger-than-life figures who seem to have it all.
Right. They offer something we crave: fame, fortune, adventure. And they make it seem possible, even if it's an illusion.
So how do you do that ethically, without being deceptive?
Understand what people want and connect with those desires authentically. Create experiences that feel meaningful and offer something that truly improves their lives.
I can see how that would be powerful, creating a sense of wonder and inspiration.
Exactly. We all have fantasies. We all want something more. Tap into those desires in a positive way, and you can create a real connection.
I like this one. I want to bring more of that into my work and my life.
That's great. Remember, life is too short for ordinary. Embrace fantasy.
Okay, let's keep going. What else is there?
Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Wait a minute, we talked about this already.
Yeah, I think this is another repeat.
It's about understanding people's weaknesses.
Right. And everyone has them.
And they can be used against us through flattery or intimidation or other means.
So it's about being a manipulator.
It can be. But remember, knowledge can be used in different ways.
It depends on your intentions.
Exactly. You can use your knowledge to help people or to hurt them.
This makes me think about protecting myself from manipulators.
It's important to be self-aware. Understand your own weaknesses so you can guard against them. And you can even use this to your advantage. Work on your weaknesses and turn them into strengths.
That's a good point. Okay, what's next?
Law 34. Be royal in your own fashion. Act like a king to be treated like one. Sounds a bit much.
Yeah, were we supposed to start wearing crowns?
Haha. No, it's about how you carry yourself. Act like a king, confident, decisive, generous, and people will treat you like one.
So projecting an image of authority.
Exactly. Perception is reality. Act like you're in charge and people will believe it.
Like those leaders who command respect naturally.
They understand that true authority comes from within, from self-worth and a commitment to something bigger than themselves.
I like that. It's not about being arrogant. It's about confidence and respect.
Exactly. It's about vision. Courage, compassion. You don't need a crown to be royal. It's about who you are.
I want to be more like that.
Yeah.
A leader, not a dictator.
It's a good goal. True royalty is about character.
This has been fascinating. We've covered so much. Manipulation tactics, grand strategies, the good and the bad.
Hopefully you've gained some insights into power and influence and how to use them skillfully and ethically.
It's definitely made me think about how I interact with others and how to achieve my goals in a positive way.
Remember, knowledge is power. Use it wisely.
As we wrap up, I encourage you to think about these laws. How do they apply to your life? Which ones resonate with you? Use them wisely, use them ethically, and create a life that you're proud of.
And remember, you have the power to choose. Choose how you interact with the world, how you influence others, how you shape your destiny. So choose wisely, choose boldly, and choose to create a life that you love.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Till next time, stay curious and remember, knowledge is power.